Does it work? I'd like to call the Butte-Silver Borough Council of Commissioners regular meeting for Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022 to order. Clerk, could we please get roll call?
12 present, 0 absent.
12 present, 0 absent. Commissioner Sorge, could you lead us in the prayer and the pledge?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive, fellow commissioners. Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which will greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver Bowl. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens. Amen.
Next, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive, and welcome everybody. At this moment, I would move to approve the minutes of two meetings, July 20th, 2022 regular meeting, and the July 27th, 2022 special meeting.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change the vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. Next, we'll move on to items not, it should be items that are addressed on the, oh, I'm sorry, any items that are not addressed on the agenda. Do we have any tonight, Clerk? Nope, okay. So we'll move on to the Chief Executive's report. I think anyone that looks around the community right now sees that there's a lot of activity. 1923 is in full swing. I was down at the Civic Center the other day watching the activity that's going on there. They're doing 7 days a week, 14 hours a day. And in fact, my son is learning how to work, I think, over these last few days. But there's a lot of activity. People are in restaurants. They're buying stuff from the local vendors, and there's a lot of buzz around town, and so that's exciting. We have other things coming up. On and Ra's coming up. We have the fair this weekend. All of those activities, fun in the sun while we have it, and so that's exciting for our community. I know we're going to be talking about the budget again tonight, and I just kind of want to touch on some things, and I've had some people address this to me about increases in the budget, and I really want to reiterate about how hard we've worked on this budget and how hard we've worked to get grant funding within this budget. There's $23 million of grant funding on infrastructure projects that are going to be funded outside of the taxpayer dollars. They're not going to be passed on to our local taxpayers. They're projects that would otherwise, if we didn't come up with this money, would eventually go to the taxpayers to do these improvements. We also have that the FLAP grant, that's another $7.9 million, that puts us up over $30 million. And then we have an EDA grant that's very close to being closed, that's another $7 million. So you're talking about $37 million that is being brought into this community to take care of infrastructure projects that, if we didn't get this money, would be going on the taxpayers' rolls at some point or another. Not next year maybe, but maybe the year after, or when we have something fail. I also want to address the sunsetting of the TIFIT. We had some conversations about that. What is the impact? The impact to that is it helps our funding locally. As we all know, 9%, we're having 9% inflation right now as we're looking at. That hits the local government as well. By having these additional funds come in and us not having to raise any rates or pass that on to the taxpayers, that is a tax break for the local taxpayers. I want people to really understand that, because if we didn't have some of this tax increment and these other grants coming back into here, this is a tax break for the citizens of Butte and the taxpayers. And so I just want to applaud our Butte-Silver employees, the Finance and Budget Department, Economic Development, all the things that brought in and done so many things, the Public Works Department that worked so hard on the grants to do these things. Because it was because we were prepared that we got these grants and that we did the work. And so I want to commend the people that did that. I'm not here to pat myself on the back. I'm here to pat Butte-Silver employees' backs, because they're the ones who did that. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that tonight and let people have a real clear understanding of that. Do we have work to do? We absolutely do. And there's still more things out there for us to try to go after. But I just wanted to kind of talk about that and put that in the Chief Executive's report. So with that, I will close the Chief Executive's report for tonight, and I will move on to any public comment on any item on the agenda tonight. If you'd like to talk about anything on the agenda, please come forward, state your name, your address, and what item you'll be speaking on. Seeing none, we'll move on to Section 1, bid openings, public hearings, and/or presentations. We have a public hearing, communication number 2022-366, Danette Gleason, Finance and Budget Director, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence to schedule a public hearing for the adoption of the fiscal year 2023 final budget and establish the user rates for Metro Sewer System, Stormwater System, Solid Waste Disposal, Collection, and Road Maintenance District. The public hearing will begin on August 3rd and will continue until the Council of Commissioners set a date to adopt the fiscal year 2023 budget and fix the rates and levies. Thank you, Director Gleason. Welcome. Oh, I'm sorry. And County Attorney Joyce to approve publication.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. There is proof for publication, both for this public hearing and for the bid opening. That's the next item on the agenda, and both appear to be in order.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Now, welcome, Director Gleason.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioners, this public hearing, as previously stated, is to address the fiscal year FY23 budget. The total appropriations, as discussed before, is $172 million, with the amendments that have been presented to you tonight. So the amendments that have presented are on the long legal sheet that have been given out to you. Quickly, most of these amendments just relate to adjustments to grant projects that either year-end activities allowed them to have additional funding available to carry over into FY23, or we had to reduce them because they spent additional funding. Several of these grants do have a different schedule, not our current fiscal year end. A lot of them are federal grants with a September 30th year end, so those adjustments are required, and that's in reference to like the JP Court. The jail-based services is similar. Health Department grants, several of them are on there. We also did receive a Montana Land Information Act grant. That's a combination of efforts of the Archives and the Planning Department and the GIS Department. They have received this grant in the past before, and because of all the work and effort that they had put into it, and Public Works that put into doing their project, they were able to apply for additional funding, and now we're doing more road ownership project grant. Then we also have accounted for and discussed many times with you about the local option marijuana tax and adding the position into that budget. Prior to handing out the original budget, we thought we were going to be able to allocate some jail diversion grants funds to that position, and as discussed previously, we were not able. The jail diversion grant changed significantly on how their funding could be used, so we had to fully fund that position, that behavioral health coordinator position, currently held at the Health Department, 100% out of the local option marijuana tax. Then we also have adjustment for parks and recs grant donations from the Dennis and Fellis Washington Foundation. That relates to invoices that we received in June, actually in July for June work. And if you turn your sheet over, there's just a few more grant adjustments. We also did get a grant at the archives for work at the Clark Chateau for the Montana History Foundation grant. That's in there. We did some adjustment for our House Bill 473 capital improvement funds. We had to do an adjustment for a bill on that. We had to reduce the budget. And then made some changes in the capital improvement fund. We added the police car that was originally not in the budget, but due to some of the additional money they were able to save in the repair budget, we were able to add and finalize and add the last car that they were looking for. And then in the water division, they also received additional DNRC grant money for the fuels reduction project out at Basin Creek. So those are the major amendments that you have before you tonight, and included in the $172 million that we are presenting to you as the budget for FY23. In the tax-supported funds, the budget is $66.7 million, which is supported by 49% of property tax revenue, and over $32.8 million of that funds is property tax revenue. So not all of the 66.7, again, is funded by property tax dollars. The remaining portion is a lot of other state and federal grant funds and other entitlement funding that we are fortunate to receive, and then some user fees and whatnot that are allocated in our tax-supported funds. The certified taxable values, less the tax increment district, is $84,487,872, which is an increase of 16% over the last values for FY22. If you want to look at the chart, I showed you the history trend. There's a 10-year history trend on the values. That's this chart. I'm not going to go through all these numbers. It's hot up here. We won't go through everything. But you can see the trend and how we've been going up significantly over the years with our values. There's also in your packet the resource and requirement schedule. This is for the tax-supported funds only. It shows that the tax-supported funds based on that $84 million number are in balance, and at 400 mills, the same number of mills that was levied last fiscal year. So with that said, there will not be a tax increase based on this year's budget and based on the certified values as of today. The increase in the budget that we were able to, and I think Chief Executive Gallagher had just alluded to this in his report, is that we had the sunset of the Ramsey Tiffin that added in taxable value, not property tax dollars, but taxable value, $5.3 million back into the local government. We had new construction. That's a new construction number that is certified by the Department of Revenue. We had an additional $2.8 million come in. And then we had the increase in gross proceeds that was another $4.7 million. So from the last certification, we also need to point out, and I did a quick spreadsheet for you. It has taxable value comparison on that if you want to follow along. It shows you the increase of the $11 million. It shows you the areas that I just discussed coming in, but also you'll see a decrease. And that decrease of $1.3 million comes from the time of when the last fiscal year, or last August, when we were got certified values from the Department of Revenue, the changes that were made over the course of the last year to property taxes. So our budget is set on a certified value as of today, but the Department of Revenue can make changes, and so that happens to us every fiscal year. Not usually as significant as $1.3 million in taxable value, but that does happen. Mainly this was, we knew and we're very much aware of $537,000 of this money because there was a comparison from the August 4th certified values last year to the date we billed in October. But then during the year when they were having hearings, whether it was the county tax appeal board or they were moved on to the state tax appeal board, we've seen that there was an additional $804,000 in value that changed. So this spreadsheet just kind of gives you the summary of how our tax value changed over the year and the comparison from last year. I also want to note that some of these values are not always going to remain the same. We know that copper, and we know that our gross proceeds tax is very much driven on the price of commodities, and we know they go up and down. So that element is in there, and we do this calculation and keep track of this for history, and we make sure that when we're developing the budget, we're not always allocating continued expenditures in the budget as such. We look at one-time costs that can be put in the budget when we look at some of these elements of these increases. So the net increase, again, is close to 11.5 million in taxable value. That equates to about 4.6 million in additional property tax dollars. So again, Chief Executive had alluded to the inflation factor, and what we're seeing is inflation, whether it's on our fuel costs, our utility costs, pretty much all of our O&M supply costs have gone up. And so that is where and why the money is being allocated and spent. Again, it's been classified in most of the areas of the budget as one-time only. We keep detailed spreadsheets in our office. Karen Hassler, the Assistant Director, keeps a very good record of what we call one-time only increases that are not embedded into the budget. So a lot of these increases that we have noted and indicated in the budget are one-time only. We will address every single one of them again next year before we move forward with adding and keeping them in the budget at that cost. I think that's really important to point out because I think some people just think we get more money and we spend it. That's not the case. That's not what happens. We're also able, with some of these funds, to work through the one-time capital items that really have been delayed for many, many years that really needed to be addressed once the TIF had sunset and once we seen some of this growth coming in and we're able to capitalize on the growth. And we have definitely addressed some of those capital needs, such as a chiller in the detention center or boilers in the fire station, and boiler in the library. So a lot of different government building type activities that we're really trying to address with this one-time money. Again, we're not building these costs always into our budget. So in the user fees and the non-tax supported budgets, again, there's no increase in these fees, as Chief Executive Gallagher has stated. He also stated that we have over 23.4 million in capital projects that are fully funded in Metro Sewer and the Water Division out of ARPA grant funds. This is a cost savings over a period of 20 years of $71.25 per water utility division user per year and $45.57 per Metro rate user. So significant amount of savings if we were have to go out and bond for a lot of these projects and be paying for them for 20 years on the ratepayers. In the SIDs, we're not seeing any increases. We talked in length about the road SID that is not increasing. The value method has not changed. I think there's going to be more work this next fiscal year on changing that methodology, but currently that methodology has not changed. The lighting and the hydrant districts as well, we're looking at those calculations today. Some of those go up slightly and some of them come down just based on the linear footage that are given to us within the districts. So that's all the information I have to present tonight for the public hearing. I'll take any questions before we begin.
We'll open up for any questions of commissioners. Seeing none?
Okay.
Did we have, okay. Seeing none? Thank you for your report, Danette. I again want to commend the Finance and Budget Department for being so detailed, and I can tell you this, our Finance and Budget Director is probably the most fiscally responsible person I've ever been around in my life. We will never get in trouble when she's in the lead of that department, so thanks again, Danette. All right, get back to where we're at here. Moving on to bid openings, communication number, we got to close, oh yeah, gosh. I want to move on, it's hot up here. So now, get my cheat sheet. Okay, so now, make sure where I'm at. I'm going to open the public hearing. I'll call for proponents, call for any proponents of the public hearing of the budget tonight. Second call for proponents. Third and final call for proponents. Now I'll call for opponents. First call for opponents. Second call for opponents. Third and final call for opponents. Now I'll close the public hearing. What do I need to do? Okay. Okay. We will keep the public hearing open until we adopt it, as it'll go to August 8th. All right. Thank you. All right. So this public hearing will be August 10th. Don't mind me. I'm having a heat stroke up here or something. All right. Good thing I got people keeping me in line, as I said before. All right. Now, we'll open up for a bid opening. Communication number 2022-375, Karen Burns, Community Development Director, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence to schedule an RFP opening on August 3rd, 2022, related to the Finland Hotel Fire Suppression Project funded by CDBG ED grant awarded to Butte-Silver Bowl. Okay.
Thank you, Sadie, and thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. It looks like we've received two proposals, and I'll go ahead and open the first one. The first one is from Communication Resources of Missoula, Montana. I'm not going to be able to read this out loud. They did not include their bid bond in their proposal.
Okay, so the first one did not have a bid bond, so we will not be able to read that bid.
The second proposal is from IT&M Division, Inc., out of Helena, Montana. Oh, that's the bid, sorry. Here's the bid. There you go.
And Mr. Chief Executive, there is a bid bond in the amount of 10% from a licensed surety company that appears to be in order.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce.
Thank you. This bid had two base bid components. The first base bid was for fire sprinklers. The second base bid is for the fire alarm or annunciation. This firm only bid, we split it apart so they could pick and choose which part to bid on. This firm only bid on the sprinkler base bid. There is no bid included for fire alarm. The sprinkler base bid amount is $1,464,018. $1,464,018.
$1,464,018.
Yes.
Okay.
I just would ask that these be referred back to our office for review.
Okay. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. This time I'd move that we refer the singular bid back to the Community Development Department, Karen Burns, Director, for their recommendation back to this body.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything on the question? Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Question for Karen. If there is no bids for fire suppression, and it's for fire detection only, is that going to change everything?
Commissioner Sorge, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive and Commissioner Sorge. So this was only one bid on the fire suppression system. The fire alarm system was not included in this bid, so we could possibly move forward with suppression with this bid. I don't know for sure which route we'll go with this. We'll have to talk with our recipient of the grant from the state of Montana and talk with the architect and engineers and decide.
Thank you, Director Burns.
Thank you.
Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. Ms. Burns, could you tell me a little bit about this grant, where it originated and everything? Is it a pass-through, or I just wasn't sure on it?
Commissioner Anderson, Director Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Commissioner Anderson. This grant was awarded to the Finland Hotel through an application submitted by us, by Butte-Silver. It is a CDBG, Community Development Block Grant for economic development purposes. It's actually a few years old. It was awarded pre-COVID. We seem to talk about things in pre-COVID days and after COVID days. This was a pre-COVID grant to Butte-Silver for the benefit of the Finland Hotel fire suppression system. It has taken some time to, work it out, decide, get designs. This RFP and bid process right now is for a design-build sort of situation. So there isn't like a straight engineer's estimate out for this because there is a design component as well. The grant amount is $700,000.
Thank you, Director Burns. Commissioner Reardon. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll go Commissioner Reardon, I'll follow.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I'm somewhat confused here. I believe that last time we did a bid opening, we referred it back to you, and it was for like $800,000 and some odd dollars. And I guess my question is this a different grant, or is this back? Okay.
Commissioner Reardon, Director Burns.
Chief Executive Gallagher and Commissioner Reardon. So we did open at a previous meeting. It was decided that we would try to re-advertise based on the bid that we did receive because it was only for one portion of the RFP that we put out, and it wasn't written in a way that it could be split, where a company could bid on just one portion or the other. So we did go back, rewrite this bid proposal and put it back out. And so now we've received, again, just one on one part of the proposal. So I'm not sure what our path will be forward at this time.
Thank you, Director Burns. Follow up, okay. Any other questions of commissioners? Seeing none, thank you, Director Burns.
Thank you.
I think it was on
So-
the question. You're on the question, aren't you? We voted.
Do we have to have a,
We voted on the question. Now you
Okay.
just call for the vote.
so I'll call for the vote. Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yeas, 0 nay, motion passes. Okay. Moving on to our consent agenda. We have Section A, 1 through 4, Section B, 1 through 20. Do we have any segregations or friendly amendments? Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Out of the Committee of the Whole meeting report, that's item 1 of the committee reports, I would like to segregate item 3, 2022-354.
It's the Committee of the Whole Reports, communication number 2022-354. Are there any other segregations? Commissioner Reardon.
Yes, Chief Executive Gallagher, I'd like to segregate communication number 2022-296. Thank you.
Do you know what number that was on here?
Committee of the Whole report.
It's out of the Committee of the Whole Report as well? Okay, sorry. I didn't see that.
Did I jump together? I'm sorry, it's out of the Committee of the Whole report. You did the same thing.
It's out of the Committee of the Whole Report, and it's communication number, which one? I'm sorry.
2022-296.
Okay, 2022-296 out of the Committee of the Whole Report.
Okay.
Any other segregations? Seeing none, Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I would move to approve Section 2, consent agenda, item A, 1 through 4, with the exception of item 1, 22-296, and item 3, 2022-354, out of the Committee of the Whole meeting report.
Second.
And item communication B, 1 through 20, and that'll do it.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve tonight's consent agenda. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? Commissioner Shaw. And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yeas, 0 nay, motion passes. Do we have an error? Is there an error on there?
It's out of the committee of the building for this 296. It's the rest. Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, we'll move on to our segregations. Communication number 2022-296 to Nick Gleason, Finance and Budget Director, notifying the Council of Commissioners that the fiscal year 2023 preliminary budget will be referred to the Finance and Budget Committee for the July 6, 2022 Finance and Budget Committee meeting, which will be scheduled to start at 5:30 p.m. in the council chambers. Commissioner Reardon.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I segregated this portion of this, or the communication basically with some news for some people all over Butte. In working with Danette Gleason and Chief Executive Gallagher and all that, we have come up with $225,000 to be used for demolition of buildings in these neighborhoods that have been around for a while. It's a one-time shot. It isn't added to any budget. These funds come from the sales tax funds and the amount that we have received. And basically what that is when they have the auctions out front and all that stuff. So this is going to be placed and reserved in the community enrichment for this situation only of demo of these buildings. Right now, we kind of maybe opened up a can of worms for the fact that it's kind of a one-shot deal, so we're going to have to come up with a process, you know, with Attorney Joyce and the people involved in this and all that. But finally, we have some money to attack some of these buildings that have been an eyesore, and especially in these older neighborhoods, so throughout Butte and all that. So I'm going to make a motion for your approval to accept these funds to be earmarked for this program and to basically see how we're going to spend and what the qualifications are for this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reardon. With that, I just kind of want to add, I know that this money was through the tax sales of properties.
Right.
We will have to create some type of structure that will define how these monies will be used and how we will apply them to taking down buildings and stuff. So with that, would you like, should we invite
Of course.
Director Gleason? I'd like to invite Director Gleason here to kind of really tell us how those funds will be allocated.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner Reardon, Commissioners, as Commissioner Reardon stated, we've been working on this. He has requested that my department look for funding to add to the community enrichment budget, as he stated, to be earmarked for some type of demolition program that is established and then ran through the county attorney to see if it complies with the ordinances and whatnot, and that we're all legal when we establish this program. For now, though, to get it into the budget, there is money this year, one-time money that was carried from last fiscal year. We, through the Treasurer's Office, had some really, and Land Records Department and all the departments that are involved in land sales, they had some great auctions last fall. And we anticipated last year in FY22 receiving about $25,000 to $30,000 in those sales. We received $247,000 in those sales money after we had satisfied all the tax obligations and spread it to all the taxing jurisdictions. That was the excess money. So when that excess money is established, then it's put back into the general fund as property tax sales. And the intention of those monies were always to use those funds for community enrichment, to take, whether it's Butte-Silver property or whatnot, and get it back on the tax rolls. And so definitely a legitimate use of those funds, and it is available and would not cause any type of tax increase in the FY23 budget.
Thank you, Director Gleason. Any other questions? Okay, Commissioner Reardon, would you like to make a motion?
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I would just like to make a motion to approve the placing of these funds into the reserve funds of the community enrichment program until we establish a abatement process for these buildings. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second to approve these funds be placed into the community enrichment budget, and pending us creating a structure that allocates them. Commissioner Callahan.
I guess I got a question there. What happens if we don't come up with a better plan? Does this just keep rolling over from year to year, or I thought Danette said this was a one-time deal, or?
Commissioner Callahan, I think that I can answer that. If we don't expend it, it could roll over. So it would be our goal to create some type of structure, working with the county attorney, that we can apply these to taking down some buildings and how they are going to be allocated out. One of the things is I think that we got to be careful that this isn't a grant program for somebody to have a building taken off their property so they can go sell it. It's more about community nuisance and what it's done in that program. So I think we need to really come up with some parameters. So we'll be working diligently on that. But so we can roll this over if we do not use it. Commissioner, I'm sorry. God, I'm having just brain fog today, and I apologize.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Mike, first I'll say I think I want to commend Commissioner Reardon for coming up with this. My only question is, would it be better to have this be introduced in Budget and Finance Committee and then have it come to us? Or should we, I'm just thinking about the proper procedures.
Commissioner Frederickson, I got your name there. Can you have Director Gleason come back up here again?
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner Frederickson, Commissioners, this is the process to establish and implement changes to our budget. So you can come up to my office, you can work with anybody, you can even present something yourself on the floor and amend. So what Commissioner Reardon's asking is to add this to that amendment sheet with noting that he has a revenue source plus the expenditure source, and that will amend the FY23 budget and place the money in the community enrichment budget, but to be held until we have a program established. So this process works. The other process is to have to write letters. And so this is kind of a more efficient process right now for this funding source.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you for the clarification, appreciate it.
Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive, and thank you, John. I think it's a great idea also. I know there's a few in my neighborhood, your neighborhood, everybody's neighborhood that probably needs. I guess my only comment is, after we do find a way, and I like the idea, it should not be a grant. This is for emergency purposes. There's houses. I sure hope that we can be kept in the loop on how we can track this money and how this money is being used in some form or fashion.
Thank you. Any other comments by commissioners? Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Thank you, Commissioner Reardon. Great idea. I think with the proper administration and the direction, this will be a great program, and I thank you for your input.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Any other commissioners? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yeas, 0 nay.
12 yeas, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to communication number 2022-354, Eileen Joyce, Butte-Silver County Attorney, requesting Council Commissioners to complete the state-approved SUD treatment and prevention form for submission back to the DPHHS Addictive and Mental Disorders Division. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. As you all know, we've been waiting to allocate the alcohol tax monies to various agencies that have come before us. I did talk to Rachel Hayes today. She's a grant contracts and payment supervisor. My first question was, how much money does this involve? She said they don't know yet. They won't know till the end of August, but last year we got close to $70,000, and it was dispersed at that time at the way that it was done in the past, just like we always have. But they use there's millions of dollars that come out of the alcohol tax, but it's on a weighted by population, so we have 34 1,500 people, and Billings would, get a lot more on a percentage-wise just by the amount of population. So that's how they come up with their figure. We need to select a provider or providers in just simply a percentage. We don't have to worry about the dollars or anything like that. And I'd like to get that done tonight if we can. If my fellow commissioners, we could come up with a percentage to apply to any one or all of the 5 applicants that did come before us by our request. We have Butte Cares, Alpenglow Clinic, JP, you're wearing off on me, Southwest Montana Community Health Center, Southwest Montana Addiction Recovery and Treatment SMART Program, and the Youth Dynamics. So I would ask what the pleasure is of my fellow commissioners. I would like to make one point. If you look at the page that we had with the X's, these are the, for example, Butte Cares, there's an X by prevention. That means the state they've qualified through the state to have monies for prevention. And the other 4 are simply in the outpatient department, not simply, it's a much larger things that they provide, but I was thinking that we might at least throw a bone at Butte Cares just because they provide prevention where the others don't. And that would just be the only thing that I would throw out there as possibility. So I'd like to see what y'all think.
Commissioner Shaw, thank you. Would commissioners like to weigh in? Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I guess my question is more for the county attorney and more related to procedure. I will be asking my fellow commissioners to approve me to abstain from voting or discussing on this, simply because the Board of Directors for Southwest Montana Community Health Center, which is where I work, they have asked me to abstain. So I don't know if I need to make that request now or if I should wait until we vote.
Thank you, Commissioner Shea. County Attorney Joyce.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Shea, I think you could do that now. You probably wouldn't be participating in the discussion either if you're not going to vote.
Yep.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Does somebody need to make a motion for that for me, or can I make my own motion?
County Attorney Joyce.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Shea, I think you make the request to be able to abstain, and then the other commissioners vote on whether or not they agree that you have enough of a conflict to be able to abstain from the vote.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I would request that my fellow council members allow me to abstain from voting or discussing this subject.
Thank you, Commissioner Shea. Do we need to have a second to let her abstain? Once she abstains, we don't need a vote on that, am I correct? Okay, all right. So we have a motion. So we need to have a motion, I believe, to allow her to abstain. Okay, Commissioner Anderson.
I would make a motion to allow Commissioner Shea to abstain from this.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to allow Commissioner Shea to abstain from the discussion of the division of assets. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? Yes, I'm sorry, Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I have no problem with Commissioner Shea abstaining, but I don't see where she has a direct financial gain in any part of this where she should have to abstain. If she elects to abstain, I support that, but if she wishes to vote, I don't see where she has any direct input where she's financially gaining from voting or not voting on this. So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. To explain a little bit to Commissioner Fisher, is that's why Commissioner Shea is asking us whether we would allow her to or not. If we felt that she was, trying to shirk her duty as a commissioner to not vote, that's a different subject. But the whole idea is that she's asking for permission, and it's our choice to allow her or not. There you go.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. Commissioner Anderson.
I would mention that precedent was set on this issue a couple of years ago when another commissioner asked to abstain from something that they did not personally financially benefit from, although their employer did on this, and it was not allowed. I'll throw that out there as prior precedent, but I believe the very faulty.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Is there anything else on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And this is to allow Commissioner Shea from abstaining.
Yeah, if she allows it, if you think that she...
Would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea, 0 nay.
12 yeas, 0 nay, motion passes. Commissioner Mankins.
So this question, thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher, this is for the county attorney. So I sit on the Butte Cares Board. Is that something that needs to, I know, I'm just crossing my Ts and dotting my Is on this, Commissioner Fisher, thank you. Just making sure that if that is something that I have to abstain from.
Commissioner Mankins, County Attorney Joyce.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Mankins, I don't think you're required to abstain, but if you wanted to follow the same process that Commissioner Shea just went through, you could. But you, again, don't have any, you don't directly benefit from any allocation that might go to Butte Cares.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Does that answer your question? Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right. I think we can add to some discussion. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you. At this point, I would like to ask my fellow commissioners how they would like to rate or rank or give these percentages out here for these agencies. Thank you.
Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I'll throw my 2 cents out here. So we have 7 organizations. It's roughly 70,000. That would leave 10,000. If we were to divide it up equally, that's $10,000 apiece. I'm wondering, this is just my discussion for something to think about. I'm not really persuaded either way, but I just wonder if $10,000 is really enough to make a difference, dividing it up equally. And I don't see any other way of not, if we're going to divide it up, I think we have to do it equally, and I'm just not sure if it's going to make really that much of a difference since it's such a small amount.
Go to you first. Commissioner Frederickson, I think County Attorney Joyce will weigh in here.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Frederickson, I just wanted to point out that we did send a letter out to all 7 of the entities that qualified, but we did put in the letter that if you failed to come and give a presentation, that you would not be considered for the funds, and I believe that the Indian Alliance and AWARE did not present any information to the council, so that would leave 5.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Follow-up, Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Chief Executive and County Attorney Joyce. I apologize for that. I missed the meeting when the other ones were here, so I didn't know. So I'd have to go to Commissioner Thatcher for the math on the side. No, I'll leave.
Thank you, Commissioner Frederickson. Do we have a Commissioner Reardon?
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I'm just going to put this out there. At this presentation, we had Mike Thatcher. He was one of the first guys that did his presentation, and he's been at this a long time, helping Butte people out and all that, and basically the presentation he made is to make this commitment to Butte. Last year, he lost $20,000. And what he did at that time is he asked for, he didn't ask for it all or anything like that. He just liked to ask us if we could consider, an amount, because basically he had already lost money. He also made the commitment at that time that basically he would not need hardly any of this alcohol tax for next year due to incoming monies that will be in the year 2023, 2024. So I just thought I'd throw it out there. I'm a Butte guy, the Butte Cares, we see it all over and all that, but then next year that would free up more money even more if he doesn't have a claim to basically a percentage of these monies. And as I look around this table here, I think everybody recognizes how much CCS and SMART has done for the people of Butte. And I think that you don't want to see anybody work for losing money. So I'm just going to make a recommendation that you think about it and all that, and I'd like to see the basic amount of money go to CCS and SMART program. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reardon. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I think Commissioner Reardon makes a great point. I think that Mr. Thatcher made a great presentation. I think that they do a great job. But I do think that they deserve a majority of the funds. Although I do think Butte Cares and Youth Dynamics both deserve a small portion. So I would like to see it split up about 80% going to CCCS and 10% to Youth Dynamics and 10% to Butte Cares. And the reason I'm thinking that way is the 80%, as Commissioner Reardon has stated, pretty much states the facts. Butte Cares works in a little different direction, and I think it doesn't hurt to give them assist at this time because they're kind of just starting up, as their representative stated. Youth Dynamics and Butte Cares, I think, deserve a little piece of the pie, so that would be my recommendation, 80, 10, 10. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. Again, when I look at what the services provide on these, all but one focusing on treatment on an outpatient basis, the only outlier is Butte Cares working with prevention. And I think if we can hit more with the prevention side of things, that it keeps the other side of the coin's cost a lot lower. If you work on prevention and you get 5 or 6% of the people not using, substance abusing, then you're a lot further ahead in the game on the outpatient side. So I'd like to see a larger portion of the pie, so to speak, go to Butte Cares in their prevention efforts.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Thatcher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I guess without sounding crass, I think that, yes, Butte Cares does focus on prevention, but I think for as long as it's focused on prevention, we haven't seen, we still have so many people that require the outpatient therapy. And I'm with you guys, I'm all about, Butte Cares and the prevention side of it, but I think more of our issue, yes, we need the prevention side of it, but I think more of an issue lies on the outpatient side of it. So I think that out of respect to Commissioner Anderson, I would just politely disagree on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thatcher. Do any other commissioners? Commissioner Callahan.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. The people that all showed up and gave great presentations, they're all in a kind of business is tough for everybody. It's something that needs more support, needs more funding, and I agree that they all should get some of the money. But I also agree with Mr. Reardon that, Mr. Thatcher came to us. We've got all kinds of agreements through the county with him. He helps us in several ways, and he came to us and said, he did go in the red last year with this program, and he asked if we could bail him out this year, and the year after that, he'd be more than glad to share it with the rest. And I just want to add that, any event that goes on in Butte, not only does he help us with the treatment side of it, but those same people that he's helping with the treatment side, they're out there volunteering with all of our events. Our Henri Raw, our Folk Festival, any events at the Civic Center, those people are donating time to our community, so I just want to put that out there, that there's a lot more good to it than just trying to give these people some treatment.
Thank you, Commissioner Callahan. I just would like to say one thing, and then I'll go to Commissioner Sorge. I also just want to kind of put it out there that I don't know if all of our commissioners realize too that we had our services in the jail that we had a provider that during COVID that stopped providing services, and CCCS at that time created a department to be able to provide those services for Butte in a time that we were in a crisis situation. And I'm not trying to skew anybody one way or the other, but I do know that we've had some really serious partnerships and help from CCCS at different times. But Commissioner Sorge?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. You know, I was just going to kind of echo that. CCCS has bailed us out many times over the years whenever we've had any kind of issues. You know, CCS, when the jail burned, you know, they were here. Whenever we've needed something, CCCS has always been here, so they have been a great partnership. I'm not sure I want to see 80%. You know, 80% wouldn't leave a whole lot for those other ones. I would propose maybe doing 50%, maybe then dividing the 50% amongst the others.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Sorge. Commissioner Thatcher?
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. Is there any way we can maybe have Director Gleason come up and talk about like where funds have gone or how they've been spent in the past? I mean, I think most of it's gone to CCCS in the past, but
Yeah.
can she give it a brief?
Thank you, Commissioner Thatcher. Director Gleason?
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner Thatcher, a little history on the funding is more so that, so we used to run this program in our health department. We hit all-time, I think around 2013 or so, I think the fund went in a hole about $1 million. And so this program's not cheap. Unless you're really sophisticated at running a program and have well-established programs in place, you're not going to make and provide the services that needs to be provided. This is just add in additional funding to help support the programs that are already in place in a well-established agency. At that time, CCCS stepped in. They got certified by the state of Montana, and then they took over offering the services in the program. I just caution you, because some of the presentations that came before us talked about using the money for funding health insurance or buying a car or giving paid time off. That's not the intent of the dollars when they originally started. The money is to provide, whether it's inpatient, outpatient, some type of counseling and treatment services to the individuals and provide those services that were once provided in our health department that we had many employees providing. And so I just caution you that we make sure that we use these money wisely, because if we don't, we're going to be paying for it on the back end, and we're going to have to be funding programs and additional funding. Not that that may already be something we're going to have to be looking at, but we just need to use these dollars wisely in well-established programs.
Thank you, Director Gleason. Commissioner Frederickson?
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I think that well, I'll make a motion. I think that it sounds like there's not enough money, and the last thing I want to do is leave CCCS hanging, so I'm going to make a motion that we provide 100% of the funding to the Southwest Montana Addiction Recovery and Treatment SMART program.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anything else on the question? So the motion will be to provide 100% funding to CCCS. Commissioner O'Neill?
Thanks, Mr. Chief Executive. I'd like to make a substitute motion on that we would give $55,000 to CCCS and $15,000 to Butte Cares.
Second.
We have a substitute motion to allocate $55,000 to CCCS and $15,000 to Butte Cares. So I would ask Director Gleason to come forward just for a second about that.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner O'Neill, it has to be on a percentage basis. Right now, we're getting, this last quarter, we got $22,500. That's probably about what we're going to get every quarter, but the fourth quarter, they true up, so we don't even know what that's looking like. So you might be committing us to give money that we don't get. So we need to have a percentage basis allocation.
Thank you, Director Gleason. Do you want to change your motion there, Commissioner O'Neill?
Yes, Mr. Chief Executive, could I change my
80/20.
Substitute motion? Okay.
substitute motion? Just do 80% of the money go to the SMART program and 20% go to Butte Cares.
So the substitute motion is 80% to CCCS and 20% to Butte Cares.
Second.
Second.
We have a second on that motion. Is there anything on the question on that motion? Again, 80% CCCS, 20% Butte Cares. Okay, looking to see there's no other discussion. Could commissioners please vote on the substitute motion? Commissioner Reardon.
I always get confused when there's more than one motion on it. So we're voting on this motion to oversee motion number
Yeah,
one?
so the second motion is the one you're voting on right now. So it's a substitute motion that we're voting on, which is Commissioner O'Neill presented at 80% CCCS, 20%
Thank you.
Butte Cares. Any other question before we vote? Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive. I would make a motion to end all motions and go with my former motion of 80% to CCCS, 10% to Butte Cares, and 10% to Youth Dynamics. Thank you.
So we have a motion to end our motion to have 80% to CCCS, 10% to Butte Cares, and 10% to YDI, is that correct?
Youth
Youth
Dynamics.
Dynamics, yeah, YDI. Okay, sorry, Youth Dynamics.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anything else on the question?
It's gonna have to be repeated, because I have to get out of this first.
Okay. So the new motion, the motion to end all motions is 80% CCCS, 10% Butte Cares, and 10% YDI. Youth Dynamics, yeah, that's their acronym. It's just like CCCS is as well. Who seconded that motion? That was Commissioner Callahan. We'll just give some time for staff to catch up.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Thatcher.
I suppose just for, I guess, logistical purposes, I don't know if it should be 80% CCCS or 80% to the SMART program.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I think you're 80% to the SMART program ran by CCCS.
Good catch,
Yeah.
Hattie.
10% to Youth Dynamics and 10% to Butte Cares. Does everybody understand what we're voting on? Okay, could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
5 yea, 6 nay, 1 abstain.
5 yea, 6 nay, 1 abstain, motion fails. So we'll go back to our substitute motion, which was, I believe, 80% to SMART program, CCCS, and 20% to Butte Cares. So we'll vote on that motion. Does everybody understand the motion? Okay, could commissioners please vote? Commissioner Shaw.
I hit it.
Okay, would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
6 yea, 5 nay, 1 abstain.
6 yea, 5 nay, 1 abstain, motion passes. So that will be follow-up, Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Thank you all for the discussion. It was great. I mean, this responsibility is always laid on the council and commissioners every year. And I think all the candidates have good qualities and good things that they're doing. We don't want to discourage them from continuing to do that. So at this time, I'm just going to have our assistant, Barb Davies, put together one of these forms and fill it out properly, and she will send it to the state. So at this time, I would Go ahead, you can ask for a motion.
Commissioner Shaw, could we
All
ask for a
right.
motion?
I will make a motion to concur with communication 2022-354 and place this on file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to concur and place on file communication number 2022-354. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
11 yea, 1 abstain.
11 yea, 1 abstention. Motion passes. Moving on to Section 3, ordinances, resolutions for final reading. Clerk, could you please read the caption?
Ordinance number 2022-07, Council Bill number 2022-07, an ordinance amending Section 17-060-020 of the Butte-Silver Municipal Code, BSB-MC, which section adopted the zoning map on Butte-Silver, State of Montana, providing for a change to the official zoning district map by rezoning approximately 4.8 acres from R4 Manufactured Home Zone to C2 Community Commercial Zone, commonly located at the northeast corner of the intersection between Warren Avenue and Longfellow Street. The subject area comprises 2 properties. One is legally described as Section 31, Township 3 North, Range 7 West, portion Lot 10 in northeast corner, and the other is legally described as Section 31, Township 3 North, Range 7 West, Lot 56 in the northeast corner, 1977 Gordon 28 by 60 of the City and County of Butte-Silver, State of Montana, providing for the repeal of all parts of ordinances in conflict herewith and providing for the effective date herein.
Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. This time I move to place Council Bill number 2022-07, ordinance number 2022-07 on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to place on final reading. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
11 yea, 1 abstain.
11 yea, 1 abstain, and please note that abstention was already allowed in past commission meetings. All right, moving on to Council Bill number 2022-08. Clerk, please read the caption.
Council Bill number 2022-08, ordinance number 2022-08, an ordinance amending Section 17-060-030 of the Butte-Silver Municipal Code, BSB-MC, which section adopted the zoning map of Butte-Silver, State of Montana, providing for a change to the official zoning district map by rezoning approximately 198 acres from R1S single-family suburban residential to M1 light industrial, commonly located south and east of the existing South Butte Industrial Park, south and east of the intersection between South Parkmont Street and Basin Creek Road. The subject area comprises part of a whole of 6 different properties in Sections 17 and 18, see attached map, Appendix A, of the City and County of Butte-Silver, State of Montana, providing for the repeal of all parts of ordinances in conflict herewith and providing for an effective date herein.
Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. This time I make a motion to place Council Bill number 2022-08, ordinance number 2022-08 on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to place Council Bill number 2022-08 on final reading. Is there anything on the question? Commissioner Fortune.
I'm going to abstain from this, but under Commissioner Callahan's advisement, I just want to give a background on this company and just clarify that it's not the solar project, and it's not tied to the solar project. It's just, it's to expand the industrial park, so that's, I think there's been some confusion up until now that this is related to the solar project, but it's Midwest distribution, so I just wanted to make that apparent to the commissioners.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Fortune. Is are there any other questions of commissioners? Could commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? Oh, Commissioner Anderson.
Just a point of order. Were you asking to abstain from this?
He has already been abstained from it.
Oh,
That's already, the permission had been
before.
granted.
Okay.
Yes.
I was,
Okay. Would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
11 yea, 1 abstain.
11 yea, 1 abstain. Moving on to Council Bill number 2022-09. Clerk, please read the caption.
Council Bill number 2022-09, ordinance number 2022-09, an ordinance amending section 1706030 of the Butte-Silver Municipal Code, BSBMC, which section adopted the zoning map of Butte-Silver, State of Montana, providing for a change to the official zoning district map by rezoning approximately 2.3 acres from R1 as single-family suburban residential to M2 heavy industrial, commonly located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Beef Trail Road and the South Montana Street. The subject area comprises the northern portion of 2 different properties. See attached map, Appendix A. The properties are legally described as Wathena Placer, Section 25, Township 3 North, Range 8 West, MMB portion, and Section 25, Township 3 North, Range 8 West, and MMB portion of South Half West W portion MA 1270 ME 1681 of the City and County of Butte-Silver, State of Montana, providing for the repeal of all parts of ordinances in conflict herewith and providing for an effective date herein.
Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to place Council Bill number 2022-09, ordinance number 2022-09, on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
second.
We have a motion and a second to place on final reading. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
12 yea.
12 yeas, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving on to calendar and other events, please note all the dates of our calendars. And then now, we'd like to move on to any item not addressed on the agenda tonight. Is there anybody that would like to talk to any item that is not addressed on the agenda tonight? If there's not, we will take them. Oh, Commissioner O'Neill.
Thanks, Mr. Chief Executive. County Fair starts tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Got tickets. Come bid on some stuff tomorrow. JP is upset that he can't make the pie eating contest, but there's a pie eating contest at 2:30 on Saturday. I think Commissioner Fisher's thinking about it, but just if you guys are around, come out and hang out at the fair. Be a good time. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Neill. Commissioner Sorge, do you have a?
Yep. Just one quick comment and put my money on Commissioner O'Neill.
I just want to go on record as saying I will not be eating pies as they're not on my diet right now.
All right. Commissioner Shaw.
If you want something really a little higher brow than that, come to the Art Walk on Friday.
Also, artwork, I would be remiss not to mention the artwork on Friday, Art Walk on Friday night. All right. I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned and stumbled through.
When is the concert on?